Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Lushin, and for my 783 class, what I'd like to do is every week I'm going to provide a review video, which I like to talk about the performance from the previous week, provide you with tips to improve your performance or improve your scoring. Because we've got such a large class this semester, it's going to be virtually impossible for me to provide you each with individualized feedback every single week. So this is my attempt to help everybody out. So in Module 1, I really enjoyed reading your discussion board posts. I think it's really important that if you are attempting to improve, you need to have a pretty good foundation of, or pretty solid perspective on where things came from, how they're defined, things like that. So that's what I'm going to talk about in this review video. And I also think I think it's interesting too. I like history, so that's why I start with it. As far as performance goes, you can see how the overall averages are above 90. I mean, that's A range right there. And but it was the first round, so of course some people were asking me questions. How can I do any better? Well, some of you didn't read the instructions for the assignment as far as reviewing everything. So make sure you're providing comments or summary for lecture videos and readings. I'm looking for your impressions, your how you connected to the content. As far as discussion goes, I've had to up the ante because we've had some very prolific people on the discussion board. So if you want 100 out of 100, the minimum is 10 posts, and they need to be of substance and timeliness. So when you simply reply to someone and say, "Hey, I agree with you. That's pretty cool," that doesn't count. And anything posted within 6 hours of the deadline at midnight doesn't score as much. So if you're someone who is really busy and you jump onto the website on Sunday, having not done any of the discussion board during the week, you try to cram it all in, it would be very difficult for you to ever get 100 out of 100. My advice is go on early and often. It takes as little as, I'm opening up the modules on Fridays. And so if you were to go on and just look at it, maybe start thinking about it, and then Sunday or Monday start posting, that would help you out. And then just come on like 15, 30 minutes, throughout the week. And then on the weekend, you can kind of fill it all in. That would increase your discussion board scores. For this week, last week, it was difficult. As you can see on here, there was a total of 386 posts. Wow. And that averages to about 7.6 per student when you divide 386 by 51. But as you can see by the posts themselves, the average was 10, whereas we had some people who as high as 31 and as low as much lower than that. And so some of you could definitely improve your discussion board posts by early and often. Again, try to get, in order to get into the 90s, you really need to have 6. As far as the assignment, read the instructions. Just be more thorough. I also track your time and touches. It's just something I'm interested in. The high for time was 92 hours. Somebody must have fallen asleep or left their computer open when they went to bed. The average is around 14. I take out the 92. It probably brings it down to more like 11. And the touches, it's right around 250. So you see we've got some people who were less than an hour on the site and, just about 50 touches. So those are the people who probably have the lower scores. Because I ran some corollaries, Pearson correlation with your time and touch against some of the outcomes. And we found that the touches were a better predictor of performance. So the more items on the site that people were opening and looking at, the more likely they were to score better on discussion and assignment. So that's just something to keep in mind. So you've probably already read my recommendations down below. So this is something I'll track throughout and always discuss during my weekly review. Let's talk a little bit about the survey. That's what's going to make this first video so long. You all reported your comfort level, or I put self-efficacy. It's interesting. This is a little bit lower than the last time I taught the class. That you all feel pretty comfortable with using the library and reviewing literature, not so much on the management of safety programs. So we may have some more novice or non-safety people in the class that brought that down. I also had you rank on your own these items that tend to lead to a successful safety program that's based on things that I had reviewed. The most critical, the class reported, was management commitment, employee involvement, and safety culture. I agree with you. The most variance. These are the items in which we had the broadest range of answers, therefore probably less likely understood. Written programs, safety culture, and hazard assessments. So I hope by the end of this course, you guys have a little bit more of a distinctive view on these things. I just thought it was interesting. Did the same thing for environmental management, the most critical, clearly defined program, organizational environmental policies, and training. The most variance was organizational environmental policies, continuous improvement, and environmental requirements or voluntary initiatives. We'll come back around to this, but it's interesting that my view is that environmental management is much more finite compared to safety management. That the standards, the ISO, guidelines and things like that, you handle environmental management a little bit different than safety management, because safety management has people in it, and that makes it infinite. Not infinite, but feels like it sometimes. For the reported causes of accidents and when or how, what was the cause of societal concern for safety and environmental? What's interesting is the number one was management leadership. And yeah, I can see that. What was interesting is number two was worker behavior, three was system design. My belief is system design first, then management leadership, then worker behavior. I tend to try not to blame the worker, and I think that's something that we'll discuss during this course. As far as what led to the concern for safety, societal, there was a tie for first, and that is when accidents and fatalities cost too much, or when people became fed up. But what I liked is it rounded out that labor unions, industrial revolution, and I think that's very insightful. I think that's a good. That's where I would align when safety became a societal concern. For environment, disasters number one, completely agree. Development of laws, EPA. I'd always hate to say that something like safety or environmental is primarily a concern due to laws. The laws came out of the concern, is what it really came out of. But then you said public experiencing or observing adverse health. I agree with that too. Yeah. So that's similar to the labor union industrial revolution. So good job with that. As far as when I asked you to define performance measures and definitions for some things, that was more difficult to analyze. It was difficult for me to get consistent response categories and then do counts like I did in the previous one. So what does that mean? I think it means that maybe we should have started the discussion with what is occupational safety and health, or what is environmental management to you. And unfortunately, I perceive that a lot of you would say, well, safety and health is sending everybody home in the same condition they came to work. I don't like that, and I'll tell you why. I think occupational safety and health is an attribute of work. It's an element that can be important or unimportant, but you can do a task. You can get something done with and without it. And sometimes it ends up being negative, and sometimes nothing bad happens. And I think that better defines the struggle we go through to protect people and the organization. Environmental management, how would I define that? That's more just understanding and identifying what needs to be contained and tracking to make sure it doesn't get accidentally released. So there's some differences there, and I oversimplify the environmental, but I think the safety one is a little bit more solid. As far as what is management systems and agriculture, yeah, I think that's another thing we're going to be exploring in this class, so I don't want to get too much into it. And this video's out at longer than I'd wanted it to be already. Here are the assignments for Module 2, and I did review some for you in an instructor video. I like these. These are some of my favorite articles. And some of my favorite authors. So I hope you enjoy them as well. Again, what you're trying to do is just, what is the lesson you're trying to take away from it? Here are the discussions, interestingly enough. So based on, I was tracking who was posting last week and when you did it. I took the people who were early posters and put them in a group. Others who kind of came in midweek, put them in a group. And then the last two groups I kind of sorted. It's Wednesday today. And I'm going to try to do these more on Mondays and Tuesdays. What's interesting is the group 1, they're already off and running. They already have over 50 posts between them. Group 2, they've got some. Group 4 actually has some, Group 3 hasn't touched it. So I will be reshuffling a little bit just to try to make it so that the prolific ones, I'm going to have you all together. I think you'll enjoy that. Those who wait till the end of the week and do things, you kind of be together. And I think you all will support each other better. We'll see how that goes. It'll probably burn me or whatever. But that's the way I want to do it. And that's all I got. We have office hours of Thursday and Sunday at 8 o'clock Central Time. You're welcome to join. I'll have other sections, specifically my class that's working on an interesting work comp project. So I invite you to come join us. I hope you're liking the class so far. Reach out to me, let me know. Thanks. Bye.